So, today, before we start reading our first play of the year, I do want to go over elements of drama. Now, the story we're going to be reading, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, is a teleplay, which is a script that is made for television. So, it's very similar to drama, except that it's actually filmed in front of a camera for TV. So, as we go through this, you're going to open up your own notes, follow along with this video, and take the notes. So, the first thing we have here, I'm going to move my camera. So, basic vocabulary words. Um, so, the author of a play is called a playwright. So, that is the author of a play is called a playwright. The playwright writes a script. So, the words that are underlined are the words that you need to actually put into your notes. The script contains characters, and the script also contains a setting. So we always have to have characters because otherwise, if you're talking to yourself, that'd be kind of weird. And you need to have a place where time and place of where our story is going to take place. So if you look here, the script usually contains, if I can get my stuff out of the way here. Okay, it usually contains more than one act. Okay. Each act consists of multiple scenes. A scene is a unit of a play that occurs at a specific location and or time. So you might have, usually there's two acts in most plays. So there's a first half and a second half. So this is the same thing with ours that we're going to be reading. And each scene, there's a different location or time that is happening. Okay. So if one of these changes, the playwright begins a new scene, almost like a new chapter if you were going to be writing a novel. So the person who takes that script and turns it into a stage production is called the director, or the person who turns it into a show is going to be your director. They're the ones that select the characters. The director must make the stage look like the setting described in the script. Okay. So the stage direction, which contains notes for the director and actors, they are not read out loud. So when we go to read our play, anything that's italicized, as you notice in this example here, that's just the stage directions. If they're longer like that, I will read them out loud as we're reading together. But whenever you're doing this, if you're actually going to act it out, these are not read out loud. This is just giving you information and the director information on how to have the scenery, how the character should be acting. Okay. Stage directions are often written in italics, like what I already said, meaning if you notice this is slanted, all of these are slanted. So when Jake starts sighing, he should be sighing as he's saying, I can't believe the car ran out of gas. Ben should be very defensive. It's not my fault. Just based on this, he should know on how to act. So again, most of the time there are stage directions written at the beginning of a scene to kind of give you some background information. What should our scenery look like? They tell the director how to set the stage. How's the stage set up? Sometimes there are stage directions written at the beginning of a character's lines. These give the actor specific directions about how he or she should say the lines, how they should act, what should they be doing as they say them. Sometimes they're written between lines as well. These direct the actors to perform specific actions, so they're not just sitting there talking. So what you're going to do in this one is I want you to notice a difference between these two. There's scene one, they're both scene one, but they're a little bit different. So if I move my picture down here, it says the stage is set up like a living room of a house. Emily walks into her room wearing a cheerleading uniform. Her hair is in a high ponytail and it looks perfect. She walks over to the mirror hanging on the wall and checks her appearance. Oh no, my hair is a mess. Emily runs through a doorway and off stage. So obviously she's very upset about what she looks like. She's excited about going to this game. She wants her hair to be perfect. Scene one, option B. The stage is set up in the living room of a house. Emily walks into her room wearing a sloppy t-shirt and old jeans. Some of her hair is in a low ponytail, but most of it is out of place. She walks over to the mirror hanging on the wall and checks her appearance. My hair is kind of messy. Emily picks up a baseball cap that is left on a nearby table and plops it on. So obviously there's a difference between the two Emilys here. One is all upset and walks out of the room because of how messy her hair is. The other one doesn't really care and just puts a baseball cap on. So again, Emily's wearing different clothes in the scenes. Her hair looks perfect in the first one. Hair is messy in the second one. Emily's line shows surprise and frustration in scene A. In scene B, Emily shows a lack of emotion. She doesn't really care. Okay, so that is how they're going to be different. Okay, so what you're going to do is these are also on your notes page as well. So what you are going to go ahead and do is I'm going to read these and we're going to go over them. So you should get the correct answers as you're doing your notes as long as you're following along with this video. So it says, in scene A, the playwright creates a scene that leads the audience to assume that Emily is A, lazy, B, vain, or kind of full of herself, C, smart, or D, messy. Again, we're looking at scene A. So B, vain, she's very much into her looks. 2, in scene B, the playwright creates a scene that leads the audience to assume that Emily is A, worried about how she looks, B, indifferent or doesn't really care about how she looks, C, surprised by her appearance in the mirror, or D, extremely tired. Again, we're looking at scene B. Indifferent about how she looks. She doesn't really care. She just throws on a baseball cap. No big deal. Okay. So if I go ahead and look at this scene or this act in scene 1, so these are our characters up here. So this is when the curtains open, Mrs. Olson is standing inside her living room wearing a business suit. The doorbell rings and she rushes to answer it. Whitney is standing there. She is wearing a sweater and a long skirt. Mrs. Olson says, "Hello, you must be Whitney. Do come in and take a seat." "Thank you. So you want to be a nanny this summer? I have a 6-year-old who will be paying 6-year-old, and I'm willing to pay you quite well. I need you from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day except Sunday, and I will pay you at the beginning of each week. Can you start tomorrow?" Sure, but don't you want to ask me any questions?" Mrs. Olson says, "No, that is unnecessary. I already checked with your references." "Okay, may I meet your son?" "Russell's at Taekwondo class right now. You will meet him tomorrow morning when you begin." "I guess I'll see you tomorrow at 7 then." "Yes, that is correct." Mrs. Olson says 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. There's your first week's salary. Will that be sufficient or enough?" Yes, that will be sufficient." Then the curtain closes. Again, I did not read all of the words that are in italicized. Again, that's going to give you an indication of what the character should be doing or how they should be acting in the scene. So this one says, which is the most likely reason the playwright includes the characters' ages? A, this information will help the director set up the stage. This information will help the director choose actors to play each character, or will help the actors use the correct facial expressions. So think to yourself, why would they include the ages? Well, it's going to be so they choose actors that are in relatively the same age range. Number 2, in the first scene, the playwright uses blank tone for the lines that are spoken by Mrs. Olson. If I go back, she says, "Hello, you must be Whitney. Do come in and take a seat." Whitney sits on the sofa, but Mrs. Olson remains standing. "Thank you. So you want to be a nanny this summer? I have a 6-year-old and I'm willing to pay you quite well. I need you from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day except Sunday, and I will pay you at the beginning of each week." So, what do you think? Is she angry, confused, formal, or relaxed? She's standing up. She doesn't sit down. This is going to be very formal. She's not standing, or she's standing. She's not sitting down to make Whitney feel comfortable. So it says the stage directions in paragraphs 3, 10, and 13 indicate. So if we go to 3, it says Whitney sits on the sofa, but Mrs. Olson remains standing. Go to 10. Mrs. Olson walks to the door and opens it. Whitney follows, but stops in the doorway. Then 13 says, Mrs. Olson removes a cash from her suit jacket. She unfolds the bills and counts them out. Whitney's jaw drops as Mrs. Olson counts higher and higher. So, what do they indicate or what do they mean? A, that Whitney and Mrs. Olson will soon become friends. B, an official relationship where Mrs. Olson is the boss and Whitney is her employee. C, that Whitney cannot be trusted. Or D, that Mrs. Olson is a lawyer. It's going to be B, that Mrs. Olson is going to be her boss and Whitney is going to be her employee. In lines 14 and 15, sufficient means, remember she says, is that a sufficient amount? Does that mean that is that an appropriate amount of something? Is that too much, too little, or to experience pain? If I ask, is that a sufficient amount? It's going to be, is that enough that I'm paying you? So she's asking her, is that enough? Will that be sufficient enough? Is that enough money that I'm giving you to watch my son? So now we are in scene 2. The curtain opens and Whitney and Rachel immediately enter the stage from the left. They left half of the stage is set like a park with a bench and a tree. As the girls are talking, they sit down on the bench. Whitney says, can you believe it? I'm going to get paid $1,000 per week. That's more than double I would have been making at the grocery store this summer. Are you sure you haven't bitten off more than you can chew? What do you mean? This woman hired you to work 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. That's 72 hours a week. Do you really want to work that many hours over the summer? I can handle it. Besides, I'll do fun things with Russell. We'll go to the zoo and go to the movies. We can swim in their pool every single day. Yes, but you're kind of missing the elephant in the room. Whitney says, huh? Go to the next slide. Don't you think it's a little strange that she never asked you any questions or even had you meet her son? I mean, it's such an easy job. Why did the last nanny quit? I don't know. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. Why do you always have to speak in riddles? What does that mean? I'm saying that all signs point to the fact that this kid is going to be a handful. I bet all of his other nannies have quit because he's so naughty, and the mom is willing to pay you so much because she knows you'll want to quit after the first day. In fact, I bet she didn't want you to meet him earlier because she was afraid that the kid would scare you off. Whitney stands up and puts her hands on her hips. Oh, for goodness sake, you are so pessimistic or negative. This kid is only 6 years old. How tough can it be? Whitney walks off stage and the curtain closes. So let's go ahead and go to the questions for this. So this is the playwright uses which kind of figurative language throughout the second scene? So we have hyperboles, which is exaggeration, personification, which is giving human-like qualities to something that's not human. We have similes, compare two things using like or as, or idioms, which are overused sayings. It's going to be idioms. Her friend uses overused sayings, and she always talks in riddles. Which line indicates that Whitney is annoyed by Rachel's responses? She says, how tough can it possibly be? I can handle it. C says, why do you always have to speak in riddles? And D, that's more than double of what I would be making at the grocery store this summer. So which one shows that she is annoyed with her friend? It's going to be C. Why do you always have to talk in riddles? It says Whitney stands up and puts her hands on her hips. The stage directions are important to help the audience understand that. A, Rachel's comments upset Whitney. B, Whitney is wondering if she made a mistake. C, Whitney is excited about making so much money. Or D, Whitney is feeling jealous because she has to work more hours than Rachel does. So if someone's putting their hands on their hips and they stand up, what do you think that shows about them? Probably more so that Rachel's comments to her friend are upsetting her. Scene 3 of this little play. The curtain opens and Whitney is chasing Russell around the park bench. Russell, in a taunting voice, "Ha ha, you can't catch me." "Russell, please listen to me. It's time to go home." "No, I'm going to have too much fun watching you try to catch me. But I'm faster than you, so you'll never catch me." "Don't you want to go home and swim in your pool?" "Nope." "That's it. I'm going to count to 5, and if you're not walking toward home by the time I get to 5, you're going to have a timeout." I don't have to listen to you. You're not my mom. Whitney stops chasing Russell. She sits down on the bench, breathing heavily. You're right, Russell. I'm not your mom. I bet you would rather be spending time with her, wouldn't you? Russell stops running. He stares at Whitney, then he looks down and nods his head. How'd you know that? I was 6 years old once. I know what it's like to be stuck with a babysitter. When you'd rather be with your mom and dad. I hardly ever get to see my mom. When she gets home at night, she makes me start getting ready for bed. That's too bad. I have an idea. Instead of thinking of me as a person who's trying to replace your mom, why don't you consider me your summer partner? We can come up with fun things to do together each day. There's some big boxes in our garage. Will you help me turn them into a castle? It says which lines represent the climax of the play? Okay. So remember, climax of a play or climax in general, when we're talking about plot, is the most exciting part of our story. Okay. So we have 35, 36. We have 42, 43, 40, 41, and 50 and 51. So let's go back. 35 and 36, it says, Russell, please listen to me. It's time to go home. No, I'm having too much fun watching you try to catch me, but I'm faster than you, so you'll never catch me. 40 and 41, I don't have to listen to you. You're not my mom. So then Whitney just sits down because she's breathing heavily. Next, we have 42 and 43. You're right, Russell. I'm not your mom. I bet you'd rather be spending time with her, wouldn't you? And then the last ones we have here, 50 and 51. Are you kidding me? I would love to. That sounds like so much fun. So which one do you think would be the climax or most interesting part of our story? You may not find the story very interesting, but if you were younger and this was a play that you're reading in school, which one would you think would be the most interesting part? So this is going to be the 42 and 43. So when she kind of realizes why Russell's the way that he is or why he's so upset. So line 47, it says, is important because. So if I go back to line 47, I'm going to read it. I hardly ever get to see my mom. When she gets home at night, she makes me start getting ready for bed. So why is it important? A, it helps the audience understand how naughty Russell is. Proves that Rachel's theory in scene 2 was correct. C, proves that Russell got tired of running. Or D, helps the audience understand why Russell was acting in such a disrespectful manner. Why do you think they included that? It's D. It can't be. Some of you might get confused and think it's B, that Rachel's theory in scene 2 was correct. But really, Russell was acting out because he missed his mom and he wanted his mom to be around. He didn't want a nanny or a babysitter all summer. So D is the correct answer. All right. So this is a different play that we are going to go through. This is when the curtain opens, the audience sees a backdrop painted with rolling hills. A castle can be seen in the distance. On the left side of the stage, two girls are standing inside the walls of a house. They are wearing ball gowns. As they remove their necklaces, earrings, and white gloves, they begin to converse or have a conversation. Wasn't the ball magnificent? Prince Edward was such a gentleman. It was okay, I guess. I know I shouldn't get my hopes up, but I'll be heartbroken if he chooses someone else to be his bride. Well, of course he's going to choose me. He and I have grown up together. We've always known that we'd eventually get married. It's expected of us. Oh. Rolling her eyes. Oh, for goodness sakes, don't look so crushed. Besides, I plan to choose you to be my lady in waiting. I would much prefer having my own sister attend to my needs than a complete stranger. I don't want to be your lady in waiting. It will be very difficult to see the prince every day when we have such a connection. That's a horrible thing to say, Christina. If the tables were turned and you were older and chosen to marry the prince, I would certainly volunteer to attend to your needs. How very selfish of you. So based on line 7, her sister's rolling her eyes. She wants her sister to be her person who waits on her hand and foot. So, what is one of the characteristics that would best describe Elizabeth? So, we have kind. Let me exit out of here so that you can see it. So the answer is already here. So we either have kind, sensitive, self-centered, or greedy, and it is going to be self-centered. Okay. So next we have the conversation in scene one between Christina and Elizabeth is important because it shows that they are sisters. B, it helps the audience understand that Christina is in love with the prince, but Elizabeth is not. C, it explains that what a lady in waiting does. Or D, tells the director that what the actresses should wear. This is going to be, it helps us understand that Christina is so in love with the prince, but Elizabeth is just like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to marry him. Where stage directions show how surprised Elizabeth feels. She shrugs her shoulders, she rolls her eyes, she stomps out of the room, or she gasps. Oh, sorry, let me exit out of this again. Oops. She gasps and covers her mouth with her hands. So that would go ahead and show us that she is surprised. So again, we still have this. They're sitting in a courtyard amid several other young women. Girl number one says, do you think there's any chance that you or I will be chosen to marry the prince? I'm afraid not. We all know that the ball was just a formality. The prince is going to choose Elizabeth to be his bride. But did you see them dancing together? The prince kept looking over at the top of Elizabeth's head. They barely spoke a single word to each other. Frankly, I don't believe Elizabeth is interested in the prince either. I think she just wants to be a rich princess living in a castle. Hear ye, hear ye. The prince has made his decision. He has requested Lady Christina's presence for tonight's feast at the castle. Lady Christina, a carriage will arrive at 7 o'clock sharp to pick you up. You may choose one lady to accompany you to the castle. I'm not sure what to say. I did not expect this to happen. I was supposed to become the queen. I'm older than you are. You don't wish to be my lady in waiting, do you? Absolutely not. What an insult. I didn't think so. But based on what you said last night, I thought I'd better ask. What is the central message of this drama? A, the love within a family cannot be broken. B, kindness is usually rewarded. C, greediness results in an unhappy life. D, there are moments in life when it's more important to follow your heart than to do what everyone else expects you to do. So this one's going to be D. There are moments in life when it's more important to follow your heart than to do what everyone else expects you to do. 14. Why did the playwright include the stage directions in paragraph 20? So if I go back to paragraph 20, Elizabeth stands motionless with her mouth wide open. Christina claps her hands and claps her chest and smiles. He or she wanted to highlight the girls' contrasting reactions, one to show how happy both girls are, one to show how shocked both girls are, one the audience to feel the strong emotion, one to highlight their different reactions. So we have line 15. The audience can conclude that Elizabeth does not love the prince does not love Elizabeth, the girl is jealous of Elizabeth, or the girl feels sorry for Elizabeth. So we go back to 15. Did you see them dancing together? The prince kept looking over the top of Elizabeth's head. They can barely spoke a single word to each other. So if the prince is looking over her head while they're dancing, it's probably going to be letter B. The prince does not actually love Elizabeth. He's constantly looking over her head, looking at someone else. Which statement best captures the irony in this play? Irony is the opposite of what you expect to happen. Christina, the younger sister, is chosen to be the queen. B, the prince is an important character, yet he never appears. Scene 1, Elizabeth was outspoken, but by the end of scene 2, she didn't have much to say. Or scene 1, Elizabeth said that if the situation was reversed, she would volunteer to be Christina's lady in waiting. Once the tables are turned, she doesn't do it. So which one is the opposite The opposite of what we think is going to happen. It's going to be D because she said that she would do that for her sister if it was reversed, but she obviously chose not to. So let's go ahead and exit out of this so I can read this to you. When the curtain opens, the audience sees a woman dusting furniture in a living room. The front door opens and two teen boys enter the room with their adult uncle. The uncle is wearing camouflage clothing and a bright orange hunting vest. Mom stops dusting. "You're home. How was the hunter safety course?" "It was fine." "Are you kidding? I almost died of boredom. I want to get out there and start hunting." "I know the class is rather boring, but safety comes first when it comes to hunting. One innocent mistake can have a deadly consequences." "Yeah, I know. So when can we go hunting with you, Uncle Bill?" "I wish you boys would have gone with me today. I saw so many deer. Both of you would have gotten one for sure." "How about next Saturday morning? I can pick you up at 6 a.m. "Yes, I'll be ready to go by 5, just in case you want to leave earlier." "I told my friend that I'll help him with something next Saturday. You guys can go and head out without me. Maybe I'll be able to join you next time." "No problem, buddy. I go hunting every weekend at this time of the year, so we'll be sure to find a time when you can go out too." "Sounds good." "Well, I better get going. I'll see you bright and early next Saturday, Aiden. Don't forget to wear your hunting gear." "I won't forget. In fact, I'm going to lay everything out right now." Uncle Bill leaves through the front door, and Aiden exits the room as well. David and his mother remain on stage. "Were you being completely truthful? Do you really have plans next Saturday?" "No, I made that excuse because I don't want to go hunting." "Let's sit down and talk about this. Why don't you want to go hunting?" "The thought of killing an innocent animal makes me feel physically ill. I just don't think I can do it, Mom." "There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to tell your uncle how you're feeling. He's going to be so disappointed in me. He's been talking about taking Aiden and me hunting for years." "I think you need to give Bill a chance. You might be surprised. He comes across as being a big tough guy, but he has a soft spot, especially when it comes to you two boys." Oh, sorry. Move this down. Okay. So what is the setting in the beginning of the play? Classroom, the woods, a living room, or a porch? It's going to be a living room because they just came back in from their hunter safety course. What type of figurative language is used in line 4? So if I go back to line 4, "Are you kidding? I almost died of boredom." Well, that's an exaggeration. So that's going to be what we call hyperbole. It's exaggeration. Why is the stage direction in line 13 important? Help the audience understand that David is experiencing an internal struggle. It will help the audience understand that David is a strong person, or that understand that David enjoys hunting. Well, we know David does not enjoy hunting because he doesn't want to go. So we know that he's having an internal struggle where he did this hunter safety course. He wants to please his uncle, but yet that's not really what he wants to do. Mom's dialogue throughout the scene suggests that she is A, judgmental, B, compassionate, C, impatient, or disappointed in David. Well, she's never really judgmental or impatient. She's compassionate. She wants him just to be honest and tell his uncle. Which line from the play suggests that one person should not make assumptions about another person's feelings? So we're going to go back and look at 18, 21, 22, and 24. So we should not make assumptions about others' feelings. So if we go to 18, "No, I made up my excuse because I don't want to go hunting." 21, "The thought of killing an innocent animal makes me feel physically ill. I don't think I can do it, Mom." 22, "There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to tell your Uncle Bill how you're feeling." 24, "I think you need to give Bill a chance. You might be surprised. He comes across as a big tough guy, but he has a soft spot, especially when it comes to you boys." So, which one says one should not make assumptions? It's me number 24, line 24, letter D, because Mom is saying, like, your uncle, even though he's a tough guy, he's a guy that you can still talk to and tell the truth to. So which literary device is used in line 24? So we have an idiom, onomatopoeia, personification, or hyperbole. So an idiom, again, this is going to be an overused saying, something that is repeated, things that you've heard before. Okay. So I did it, David. I got a deer. It was so exhilarating. Congratulations. Yep, Aiden is an old pro now. He was able to show you the ropes when you join us next Saturday morning. Yeah, about that. I don't think hunting is for me, Uncle Bill. The thought of it really stresses me out. I hope you aren't too disappointed in me. Are you kidding me? How could I be disappointed in you? I know that hunting isn't for everyone, but I still do have one request for you. What's that? You and I have to figure out something else we'd like to do together. You mean like eating ice cream? No, I was saying more the lines of an activity that we can do together. I like playing the guitar and singing, and Mom says you used to play the drums. Maybe we can jam out together. I haven't played for years, but I think my old drum set is still in Grandma's attic. I'll be willing to dust it off and give it another try. Awesome. Thanks for being so understanding, Bill. You're the best uncle in the world. I agree, says Aiden. So it says, smiling, you mean like eating ice cream, David says. Uncle Bill, laughing, says, no, I was thinking more like the lines of an activity that we can do together. So what can the audience conclude? A, Uncle Bill does not appreciate David's joke. B, David doesn't usually joke around. C, both David and Uncle Bill have a sense of humor. Or Uncle Bill does not like ice cream. Well, this one's going to be C, that they both have a sense of humor. They're both able to joke around with each other. The last one, Uncle Bill's lines through scene 2 indicate A, Bill is not as understanding as Mom thought he'd be. B, Bill cares about his nephew more than he cares about hunting. C, Bill's an extremely talented drummer. Or see if we can get this. So he's not confused about David's decision. He cares about his nephew more than he cares about hunting. He wants his nephew to be happy. So you should have those answers correct now that we've gone through all of them. I know this is a long presentation. Pause, take breaks on it. Once you have this completed, turn it in so I know that you actually fully watched this video and you understand the different parts and understanding how to use dialogue in a script to answer questions about a story. And then we will start reading.